If you're looking around at everyone at your work and you wouldn't want to trade places with any of your bosses, you know that the corporate world is not for you. That's exactly what happened to our guest and his partner when they were doing an aerospace internship during college. They knew they had to do side hustles and figure out their own path. That was going to make them happy. This is the podcast for 10xing your income and replacing your W-2 with wholesaling real estate, which is a proven business model to help you make big checks by finding rundown houses. My name's David Lecko. I created a process that's helped people close 10,000 deals in all 50 states called DealMachine. My co-host is Ryan Haywood. In 2019, he started wholesaling with a 14-day challenge, made $8,500 on his first house, and has gone on to do 425 deals since then. I contacted you because you have pulled a lot of leads in DealMachine, and I was just filtering by how many leads people have pulled. And so I thought you'd be a great story to see specifically how you started wholesaling, and then I'd love to get into some more of like where you're at now.
Yeah, so I started with my partner we started learning maybe in like 2020. It's kind of when we first heard about it, and kind of did some basic research, kind of looking into it, but didn't really do anything until maybe 2021. And so that's when we started actually trying marketing and cold calling and stuff like that. So we've been basically wholesaling since 2021. We're in the DFW market of Texas. And so right now we have a small team. It's primarily just me and her. And then we have some VAs that would do our cold outbound reach. And right now we're basically in the process of switching a little bit more to inbound marketing sources like PPC, pay-per-lead, and trying some direct mail as well.
Okay, got it. So do you remember how much that you and your partner made on your very first wholesale deal?
Yeah, on our first wholesale deal, we made $10,000. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Great. That's amazing. Walk us through exactly how you found that person that wanted to sell their house.
So it was a while ago, but I remember kind of like the general story of what happened. When we first got started, we didn't, like most people, we didn't really know what we were doing. So I guess for whatever reason, we thought that it made sense to look at on-market deals. And essentially what happened was we found an on-market deal with a real estate agent who, she was really nice. And she had this property that it needed some work in Haltom City area where we live. And we reached out to her and just asked her what they were planning to do with the property. I can't remember how long it was listed on the market, but we reached out to her, and she actually had a different seller that was selling a property that wasn't on the market. So it wasn't the property that we reached out about. It was actually kind of like a pocket listing that she had. So she told us.
So a pocket listing means that it's a deal that she's trying to find. Why did people do those in the first place? So it was like a seller that wanted to sell their house, but they didn't want to list it on the market, right?
Right.
So what a pocket listing is.
Yeah. Yeah. So pocket listing is essentially, a listing that an agent has and hasn't listed it yet. And it could be for different reasons. Maybe it needs work, or maybe there's some issue with the seller that they just haven't listed it yet, or they're not going to list it.
Yeah. Oh, maybe like they're embarrassed. They're like, oh, I'm a hoarder. I don't want the whole world knowing all these like, issues that I have, that I still need to sell my house.
Right. Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah. Usually it's something that they're not going to put on the market, or they just haven't done it yet.
Got it.
And then in this case, she didn't put it on the market yet. I can't remember exactly why it was on the market, but we just told her, we work with investors and they're looking for properties. And then so she gave us this lead, and we met with her in person at the property. And it wasn't a terrible house, but it did need a lot of work. The neighborhood that it was in wasn't that nice of a neighborhood either. So I think what it was is it was just a pocket listing. She didn't have any investor buyers or anything like that. So she gave us the opportunity, and we were actually pretty upfront with her, and we told her that it was our first deal. And she was very nice about the whole process and gave us a lot of time to kind of invest into the deal, like doing research and making sure that it would make sense.
It's probably something that I've recognized is as you've gained consistency in wholesaling, you've gained consistency with establishing your buyers, you have more confidence that you're not going to be in a situation where you're going to need to get out of the deal. So you've established, okay, I'm going to get this done. You don't have to say, this is our first one we're doing, I'm going to try to find a buyer for it, because you've most likely established your list of buyers. So I was just curious, like, knowing you're established, how much of that clarity do you throw into that sales pitch now versus when you just started? That's what my direction on that was.
Right. Yeah. So I think now we'll pretty much just, as long as you don't give them too much information as far as making it confusing for them, at the end of the day, they just want to know that it's going to be done. So as long as you take care of it, do what you need to do and make sure that you're working with, both the buyer and the seller, then you should be fine.
What other ways did you find? So you found your first buyer that was not necessarily the easy button, but it worked out pretty easy for you. How did you establish finding buyers from that point? Because surely not that guy hasn't bought all your deals. How did you build a bit of a buyer's list?
Yeah, so moving forward from there, we did do a lot of, posting in Facebook groups, joining Facebook groups to find other buyers, looking to see in those groups who's actively buying, and building our own kind of like email list and direct buyer list.
Did you usually have a good idea, like walking through a house, you're like, oh, this is going to be good for David or John, and then you would target those specific ones? Did you pre-qualify the people that were on your buyers list to know what was a good deal for them, or did you just start calling from the top?
I don't think we ever. I mean, we had like a couple of like VIP buyers, people that I think in our area, a lot of people will buy pretty much all over the Metroplex as long as it's a good deal, minus a couple of, some downtown areas or things like that. But I wouldn't say we necessarily like looked for a specific deal for a specific buyer. A lot of times we would just get the deal, make sure we know that the numbers are good, and then we would send it to the VIP buyers first and get their input before we would, put in other groups.
Hey guys, if you know you want to quit your job in the next 3 months, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast, because we've got some incredible frameworks with step-by-step instruction that you're not going to want to miss. Also, leave us a rating and review to let us know your favorite parts and why you want to get financial freedom.
So you kind of have it set up. You have two separate tiers. You have your VIP, which probably buy a majority of your deals. And if they don't want it, then you send it to your secondary list.
Exactly. And then we also...
How many people do you work with in terms of buyers?
Say that again?
How many buyers are on your list total, VIP and your secondary?
I would say that, for us, we can definitely improve in the buyer list area, and making sure that we have more buyers. What I would say is recently we've been working with some local wholesaling companies as well. So that was another thing I was going to touch on, is that there's some local companies that we'll work with that they'll actually help us find the buyer. Because typically, we usually have buyers that will be interested in the deal, but there's a couple of local companies that, they have a bigger buyer list or whatever the case is. And usually they can find a buyer who might be able to pay more. So we've been basically JVing on a lot of deals recently.
Do you get more of an assignment fee if you JV with somebody that's got an established list? Because most likely they're like, oh, this is underpriced, and maybe they can pull in more. Or how do you set your JV agreement up? Is it, hey, whatever it sells for, we split? Or do you say this is the price, whatever you want on top?
Yeah, so we typically have them look at the comps and run the numbers to see what they can find as well. But usually they'll let us know, like, this is how much we can probably pay you for the deal. And then we're going to try to get it for higher than that. So they put everything on top usually.
Sweet.
Hey, Deshan, what were you and your partner doing before you got into wholesaling?
So before wholesaling, I actually was in college, probably about a year or two before we started wholesaling. But I was in college. I was studying aerospace engineering. And I got an internship at American Airlines in the DFW area. And that's how I met my partner, who's also my girlfriend. the internship was great and everything. The company was great, but I just knew that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do something like on my own. And so that's how I basically later on left school and then started doing different things like side hustles and stuff like that, if you could say.
Yeah. Could you remember why exactly you wanted to do something on your own?
I think for me, it was during the internship, just to make it like a short story, there was a day where one of my coworkers, he asked me like what day it was. And I told him, I don't know what it is, what today is, because we had really long shifts. And so he asked another person, and basically what he said one time was that he doesn't know what day it is today. He just counts the number of days until he gets off work. And so to me, I was like, I don't know if I looked around in the office and I was the youngest one because I was the intern, and everyone was, a good 10, 30, 40 years older than me. So for me, it was like, if I keep doing this, it's got to be kind of like what my future looks like.
Yeah. For me, Austin, is that somebody you've got to switch places with? If they no, that's a wake-up call. You had that early.
Right. So I feel like for me, it was pretty much, like you said, my wake-up call, like you can either keep doing this or you have to make the decision on if you want to change. So that's what I did.
Beautiful. And then where have you gotten to now with your wholesaling? And when was that your first deal?
So the first deal, I believe that was, so we started in 2020, like I said, kind of learning. So I think 2020 was actually, it was either the end of 2020 maybe, or like early 2021, because it took us a couple of months to get that first deal. And then, so now it's still me and my business partner, our VAs. And like I was saying, we are switching our business around a little bit to try to get more of the inbound marketing leads, because typically, they're hotter and we're work with. And so
now you're setting up a website, so when people Google, how do I sell my house, they come to you?
Yeah, so we do have a website, and we're working with doing pay-per-click advertising to, drive people to the website and then basically reach out for more information. We are also using other pay-per-lead services, so they basically do the same thing, but they just send you the list or the leads instead. And then we're looking into doing like direct mail and stuff like that. But we've done mostly texting and cold calling.
Okay, got it. Yep. Do you have a certain goal in 2024 that you'd like to achieve with inbound and how your business might grow?
Yeah, so for right now, I mentioned this to you before, but we're still kind of in the startup phase. We don't have any real like employees or people that are working for us. So it's primarily just us doing all the calls on the leads that come in, and then doing all the closing. So I think our goal this year is to just get a lot more consistency. We still have months that we do a lot of deals, and then other months where, it's a little bit of a struggle. So for right now, for us, it's just getting that consistency. And then hopefully our goal is to just bring in a couple people and have a small team, a small virtual team, to where we don't have to do, the day-to-day things, and we can just focus on manage it, the whole operation.
How do you divide up the responsibilities?
So what she's doing right now is she's calling all of the new leads that come in. So they've usually said that they have some kind of interest. And then she basically qualifies them to see if they're worth giving an offer. And then if they are, then she'll pass them off to me. And then I'll take them through a process, and then I'll give them an offer if it makes sense.
Okay, got it. Do you have any advice for somebody who's just starting out?
I would say that definitely get some information, a good amount of information before you start. I think some people, they either jump into it without any information, or they get too much information. So I think it's good to get a base level of information so you know what you're doing, and then kind of get into it. Or if you can, hire a mentor, join a Facebook group. You guys go on your guys' podcast and get the information from your guys' podcast and other people. And then definitely it's going to come down to action, but you also want to, a lot of the people that we work with, they're only selling their house maybe one time. in their whole life. So it may not be a big deal to us, but for a lot of them, it can be a pretty big deal. So you want to make sure that, you're acting professional. And to do that, you have to have information. So either get a good amount of information, get a mentor, or, work with someone who's already doing it and learn directly from them.
Love it. Deshan, where can people find you? Do you have an Instagram account where you guys post?
Yeah, I do have an Instagram account. It's just my name at Deshan Hilman. We don't really post too much on social. If you go on there, you'll probably see a lot of because we like traveling. So you'll probably just see a lot of me traveling. But we are looking to get more on social media and doing more with our business as well. So,
gotcha. Well, thank you so much for sharing your success. And I'm really proud of you guys for not getting stuck in the corporate world, knowing that you knew that wasn't for you. So just super thankful you could share that story, because I know it'll make a difference in at least one other entrepreneur's journey. And I'm excited for this to come out in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Nice talking to you.
Thank you, man. You too.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.